All right. We live, we rocking and rolling. I'm going to give them threes. I'm going to give them twos. And that means once the one cracks, say something is back in the building. And we are. Mitch is to my left as always. You got Benny right here ready to talk some sports, man. I'm excited to be back with you guys. I hope you guys had a phenomenal week in between. Mm-hmm. And as you know, tradition of the show, before we get going with everything we got, we like to do a check-in. We like to make sure everything is copacetic, as they say. So take the time right now. If you're with somebody, or even if you're thinking about somebody, you can text them. No big deal. Just check in, see how they're doing. Might make a difference. Mitch, what's going on?
Man, I'm doing good today. I'm excited. Just came from watching the game for the Warriors. Got some exciting stuff to talk about with that coming up. But everything's been going good. Been seeing the family, chilling with the girl, just enjoying my time, working every day. Same old, man. But I'm ready to do this. How about you?
Man, I'm good. You know, a little fatigued this week. Mm-hmm. It's been a heck of a 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Since got some things happening, copped the car and stuff like that. Yes, so it's just been resettling in, trying to knock one thing off the plate at a time. Mm-hmm. Clouds are starting to clear. But as always, I have the utmost clarity when I come onto this show. So no worries on fatigue or anything. We're ready to ball
ready to
out.
Go.
We're ready to ball. So without further ado, I hope you guys are doing well because we are going to rock right in with what we got today. So NBA, as Mitch mentioned, Warriors are hot. And when I say hot, I mean hot.
Let's go.
Yes, sir. Exactly what we wanted. 6-1 since the Butler trade. Mm-hmm. That's what you call, at least to this point, a monumental move, a mountain mover, if you will. This is something that is shaking the ground, and we're loving the ground that it's shaking. Mm-hmm. We loving it. So, the one big stat that I want to bring up before I let Mitch talk a little bit about what he's seeing, what this 6-1 since Butler trade record means, what the 5-game winning streak looks like. I just want to say we went from the worst free throw shooting team without Jimmy Butler to the best free throw shooting team with Jimmy Butler. Mm-hmm. I think it's no coincidence that he is very strong in those categories and has made a change in that way where we felt a tweak or two away from being a much better free throw shooting team. Like, what is going on with all these guys with such good shots who just can't put a free throw in? Mm-hmm. Weird. So it must be nice to see a guy that you can really rely on who's like, I'm willing to go to the line 12 times.
Yeah.
And I'll go ahead and make 11 or 12. And to see that, you got to get confidence. You got to feel good going to the line, knowing there is another guy here who's just showing you how to put the ball in the bucket in those clutch moments, and takes the weight off of you as well. It's like not as many meaningful free throws for some of these other guys as it used to be because if they double team Curry, where are we going to go?
Somebody's going to be open. GP2 was open a whole bunch.
Right.
Pick and rolls with him tonight.
Nasty. So I want to let you break the news about what happened tonight and just talk a little bit about tonight's game as well as looking back at this run. So go ahead.
Well, Steph Curry had an amazing night. 12 3-pointers made, 56 total points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals. Absolutely took the game over, which we really needed. There weren't a lot of people besides him and Quentin Post that were shooting well tonight. We had, to your point, we did shoot 30 of 34 from the free throw line, which is a drastic improvement. I feel like we were missing about 8 or 9 free throws usually during a game comparatively to now, where I feel like what you're saying with Jimmy Butler has been a big addition to just confidence in our young guys. I feel like we see them playing a lot more with a lot more initiative to try and go at the basket and play hard. We had Moses Moody had 7 free throws. He was 7 for 7 from free throw line. So Draymond Green 5 for 7, Steph 12 for 12. So that just goes to your point on we're getting to the line a lot more. Things are spread out so that guys on defense, when we're going at the basket, they're having to recover and leading to more fouls for us. A lot more and ones with Jimmy at the bottom of the court. He is just a beast down there. He's not even the biggest guy, but somehow always ends up going up for buckets right under the hoop. So that's been a big help for us. Just adding on to helping our young guys be more part of the offense, because with somebody like Andrew Wiggins, who we had before, it was kind of he gets the ball, he's going to be dribbling it a bunch, and the guys were kind of just rotating with no real agenda. And now it seems like back cut, Jimmy in the middle, look for a cutter, look for a back pick, turn around, shoot a shot. It just opened up the floor a lot more, and seems like these younger guys are trying to fill in and find their place, and it's going to be exciting to see what Jonathan Kuminga can do when he comes back with a Jimmy Butler, because seems like he's already a guy who's taking the younger guys under his wing and just giving them more and more confidence to just go out there. And yeah, man, I'm Jimmy Butler. I put up 5, 7, and 4 tonight. I didn't do anything, but I did help you guys move the ball around. I did help on defense. I made an impact on more than just the stat line, and it really shows with how guys are playing, and especially with Quentin Post. The emergence of Quentin Post has been absolutely ridiculous.
Hello.
I mean, he's making threes. He's shooting ridiculous clip right now.
Celebrating everywhere,
celebrating.
Bro.
Just
feeling
the exact kind of guy that the Warriors need as a big man, and he's really stretching the floor and giving a lot of excitement and a lot of encouragement at that position for us. So it's really exciting to see him be able to step up, because honestly, for somebody who wasn't really known in terms of like all the NBA, he's 100%. Really showing out as a rookie right now. So it's cool to see him do that too. But yeah, overall, Jimmy has just brought a different mindset to the rest of the team. And like we were talking about earlier before, it's kind of giving Steph a little bit of, all right, I don't have to be the person who's like battling with Dre all the time and keeping him under control. I could just kind of let Jimmy do that now, because they can have that. They have that same kind of personality, the same dog in them, where it's like they can kind of even each other out, where Steph doesn't have to lose his mentality in the game and lose his mindset during a game to try and wrangle in Draymond. So it's been really positive, really great to see 6-1. I'm excited to see how we keep going moving forward and making a playoff push.
Yeah. I mean, it looks realistic that we could be out of the play-in potentially with the way this team is playing. And I think that with this kind of roster, the play-in is just your worst nightmare. You know, one and done with these guys is like, that's just a coin flip. They're great, but as great as they are, you know, I don't think anybody's in the confidence seat to the point where they go, oh, yeah, it's all good and one and done. We'll be fine.
Especially in the West. The West is crazy.
Oh, my God. But you get them in a 7-game series, and I think there's a lot of teams that would not enjoy that matchup, where they would look at the Warriors and be like, nah, I'm good.
With Steph playing as free as he is right now, too, it's just if he can keep that going, he's playing like he was playing at Davidson. You know what I mean? Man. It's just, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take 27, 30 shots, and it's going to be on me. Everybody filling where you can. Everybody, when he's not on, we got somebody like Jimmy Butler who can help carry the team. So it's a nice duo to have.
Absolutely. I think what you said that is really a great point to me is, you know, Steph can just hoop. Right? Like, Steph is a leader, but he's a leader, I think, kind of like a silent leader. You know, I think he's one of those guys that kind of leads by action. And I think when you have a Draymond Green who is so mercurial, right? Like a guy that's awesome at times, but can also be a little detrimental, can also definitely uplift and bring down. Like I've seen both sides of him where he's bringing the best out of somebody and also making somebody scared to hoop. And I think when that is happening and we're going through these ups and downs in our play style, you know, I think Steph was stressing. And I think Steph was taking a lot of that responsibility on himself to try to figure out, okay, this isn't me naturally, but what do I do then? Because I can't just let us sink. Draymond is trying, but Steph has been there long enough to know when things are going wrong with Dre trying to. And I think he was really seeing that. They're like, okay, the guys aren't feeling this. Like, this isn't going to be what gets us back. And so on top of everything else, I just think Jimmy brings that weight, a heavy enough weight to balance things back out, also to go toe-to-toe with Draymond if there are confrontations that need to happen, or if, you know, if Curry really feels like a message needs to be across, there's now a potential mediator for all of this to go down with. And I think the fact that Jimmy's so sold on our organization, I think is also showing. I think he is super invested. They talk about how he's the first one in. Well, he's staying super late to try to just really get a grasp of our offense, the way we play, to really feel out who's on our staff, right? He wants to, like, be around us. He knows the next 3 years are going to be with us. So he's like, he is really, what people are saying is he's been so impressed that he's trying to impress us. And I think people are seeing that on the court. If not in his play, you're seeing it in his attitude, right? The guy looks happy again. He looks ready to lead. And when he is vocalizing things the way he is, you got to love it. Because him and Draymond, they call shots that you feel like are sometimes unnecessary, but they're not far off. They really never do call a shot that's very far off. And so, I think when you got their hearts behind it as well, that's what makes these guys super dangerous, because you can see across the NBA, a bunch of talented teams that just don't have their heart in it.
Right.
And they are going downhill fast, a whole different direction. And one of those teams, before we fully jump into it, would have been a perfect transition if I didn't have to still talk about this guy, Taron Armstrong. But one of those teams is the Suns, who are absolutely going in a different direction. And we will be talking very shortly about what their offseason is going to look like, because as of now, it seems like it has already been shown. The cards have been shown. What is going to happen is going to happen. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. But before, I just want to announce the last roster spot for the Warriors has been filled. This guy, Taron Armstrong, 6'5" guard, kind of Josh Giddey-ish vibes, coming from the Australian NBL, National Basketball League. He played at Cal Baptist. He was a freshman, I think, in 2021. He was the WAC Freshman of the Year. Then I believe he went overseas to Australia, has been playing pro since then, has been tearing it up, I will say. He's putting well-rounded numbers across the board, somewhere around 16, 7, and 10. But, we'll see obviously what that looks like for us. Apparently, the way he initiates plays is very impressive. Apparently, he is a super good distributor of that rock. And that is something that we obviously value with the way that we play. And so it'll just be interesting to see. I don't know how he'll get a lot of PT. I do think this may be more of a long-term play, putting him into our system, giving him this opportunity to see, in a year or two, could you be our backup, one of these guys that comes out? But it's hard to envision him getting any burn this year. But just good to know he'll be with Santa Cruz now. So, if you guys are ever watching the Santa Cruz Warriors, that's a new guy that's going to be on the two-way contract. And I'm pretty sure he'll ball out for Santa Cruz. I mean, our Santa Cruz team is good, and adding a guy like that, who I'm not sure if they truly do have a guy like that on that roster, should be fun to watch. So hopefully the young man gets a good opportunity to ball. I know we got the trainers. I know we got the staff. Right. So if he's got the right mentality, he could go somewhere. And we'll be checking in on you, bud. So good luck. Good luck. On to the Suns, as we mentioned. Just really fast, just because KD was so tied to us. And I don't know if you saw, he went on that Draymond podcast, which personally for me, I saw that. Personally for me, I just want to say I'm calling BS. And so I know people are probably mad, and probably KD and Draymond will be the most mad, but that was not the real answer, and that's fine. It's all fine with me. We're not going to go get you now anyway. So it wouldn't matter. Whatever you say is whatever you say. But you nixed coming back to us, and you knew exactly what was going on with Phoenix. And you also knew inevitably what now was going to happen, which is now that they've dangled you, you are damaged goods in your own mind. You're not trying to be there. So, of course, you're going by this offseason. So, to me, is there a little bit of I want to control my own career, I want to control the narrative? Sure. If you had another opportunity to go to a true championship contender this trade deadline, you would have. Okay? So all this, I just can't get you. I've been traded. I don't want to move. I don't want to. You don't look happy anyway. So you want to sit there and just be sad for the next couple months and then put it all up in the air again, in jeopardy of Lord knows where you land again, right? So I personally believe, I'll give a little bit towards the, you wanting to, just have control of all this. But for me, the reality is I don't see how you could have justified coming back to us and accepting that kind of pressure. At this point in your career, we were not going to be dominant in the way that we were the first time with you. We still could have been potential contenders, but think about the pressure KD would have now been put under. Steph has won without him. Steph won before and Steph won after. If KD comes back and gets another ship, he is now Stephen Curry's henchman.
Robin.
He is the little guy to Steph Curry's big guy. And I don't think if you look at a guy like KD, I think he'd rather go out with less titles, just saying it, he did it his way, than ever being tied to somebody else.
You don't think he's already that, even where in his position right now, where like you said, Steph has won again without him. So is now the narrative not that you really can't win with, like, or you haven't been able to win without Steph, and maybe that's a little bit of why he didn't want to come back to the
100%.
Warriors, where it's just like, yeah, you're just running back to the guy who can win you a championship. But at the same time, he tried to do that with several other teams and wasn't able to do it. So to be like, I'm gonna go back to the Warriors does seem kind of like a punk move, or just like like you can try something else. Not to say that you'll win, because Steph is the ultimate teammate to have, especially if you're somebody as talented as Kevin Durant. But I don't know where he would go moving forward, where it wouldn't feel like, oh, you just joined another team that was literally just you away from making it.
Yeah.
Instead of just like, oh, I'm taking this team that I already have with Devin Booker. I'm such a amazing superstar and Hall of Fame player. I should win anywhere I'm at. And it's like, it's proven that maybe in terms of actually winning on the team, maybe you are just a contributor and not the main reason why those things are happening. That's just the outside view. That's what I've seen when you were with the Warriors, and now that you've been away with the Warriors, I think you just don't want to have that moniker on you of, hey, Steph is getting you these championships, when really, when you're on the Warriors, you damn near are the best player, because you can do what Steph does, but you can also go to the rack, and that's why.
And we support you,
right?
like
And
that.
we
Like,
support
we
you,
let
and
you
like,
be the best player too.
And I don't know why he wasn't okay with that. I mean, I understand he had the whole Draymond stuff, but to ever think that you would go somewhere and be, like you said in his interview, he said, oh, it wasn't about the fans not appreciating me or anything like that, or not being the number one. But like, nah, that literally feels like it was the reason you left. Is like, no, you guys are, I'm winning the NBA Finals MVP, so everybody knows I was the most important guy in the series. But Steph is always going to be the most beloved player in the Bay Area. Mm-hmm. So to even have a thought that you could contend with that was ridiculous in the first place. Nobody in the Bay Area is doubting your skills and how much you helped the franchise in the Bay Area in terms of winning championships. But when it comes to who's going to be the guy who's forever known as the Warrior, it's always going to be Stephen Curry over anybody else. So I just felt like him leaving that initial time was just like more of, again, the ego type thing, and not you said you wanted to go from OKC to playing the right kind of basketball, and then you just left that to go play the same kind of basketball you were playing before. Mm-hmm. So it's really on you. You was being sensitive. You didn't want to be a Robin or considered somebody like a Scottie Pippen, rather than just like, oh, I'm on the same level as LeBron and all these guys, which you are talent-wise, but maybe not in terms of like the
mentality.
The mentality.
Absolutely. You know, I'm in full agreement. I think the other big piece too is that even Clay came before him. Mm-hmm. Like, listen, if we're talking real like Warrior lore or like Mount Rushmore-isms, like, yeah, Clay's face is on there 50 times out of 50 times before you, mm-hmm. KD, anyway. So it's not even a question of Steph. It was like, you're behind multiple guys in the conversation. We still give you respect, but in terms of like that, again, I think is what made it even harder, is like you would never surpass the two of them. And so realistically,
wasn't even Draymond either.
Yeah,
it's like Draymond's part of the trio too. So
that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. And so, yeah, I think that's what, you know, made it even tougher for him to a pill to swallow. Is we already had our Mount Rushmore, mm-hmm. and you just came to kick it with them, and you did a good job kicking it with them. You made it look like a masterpiece. That doesn't mean that we changed Mount Rushmore,
right?
You know, and so I think that's a huge piece as to why the first one broke up. And then this one, I think, again, I really just firmly believe he still believes he's going to go get one, which is fine. Hey, man, you're a hooper. You're a competitor. Mm-hmm. You saw what you could do in the Olympics, blah, blah, blah. I think that's what it is. I think he believes that his next stop could be the best stop. Mm-hmm. And I think he believes that is exactly what he forfeited by saying no to the Warriors and no to that pressure of coming back. And really, if you come back to the Warriors, you have to win the championship.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think that he believes if he goes to a place where it's not a you have to, and he does it, mm-hmm. that's going to get him some get back. And we all don't feel that way, but we'll talk about that if it ever happens, okay?
Just feels far-fetched without how he played on the Warriors. Like,
yeah.
Every other team, maybe the Rockets,
Yeah.
maybe the Timberwolves.
No, I think the Rockets are his best spot. Like I think the worst spot for him to go would be us. I think at this point you can't come this way.
Unless you're just finally ready to be like, I just want to win a championship.
And even that, I'm just like, honestly, at this point, KD, you're not ready. I'll take Jimmy to battle at this point because I just need heart. You just not. I mean, yeah, of course. But it's one of those things where, like, if I now look at what this team actually needs with who Steph Curry is, we need more of a Jimmy Butler. You know what I mean? Right now, with the way this roster is constructed, because we have plenty of shooters. We have plenty of guys that can put the ball in the bucket, and that's what you do, KD. You do a lot of other things. But Jimmy Butler is, as he's grown up, and what happened with the Miami Heat is he truly became a facilitator. Truly became their guy in the clutch who is getting all their plays set up. Basically a de facto point guard.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that with how he's playing with us. And although there were times when KD could do that, we never relied on him for facilitation at all. At all. And and then you also talk about who he is as a person. I think we need Jimmy more than that as well. Who's like a guy who knows exactly who he is not scared to come in and plug in what's needed. And I don't even know if KD, you would say a word if you came back. Like I know you'd hoop, but I don't even know if you'd say anything. And I mean that to everybody, media, all of us. You know what I mean? So that is that. Put a nice bow on the NBA. Drop in the comments where you think KD should go. Please let us know. The last thing I will say is look up on YouTube that 3-quarter shot that Steph hit tonight. Beautiful. Talking about cushy, mid-cushers.
It's crazy. I feel like there was 3 into the quarter last minute shots made. Moses Moody had one to end the quarter. Steph had one in the half, and then I think what's his name, Jet Howard for Orlando hit a little fadeaway for the end of the quarter. So that was interesting. There was every shot taken at the end of the quarters are all made. So that was pretty crazy.
But nothing tops my boy Curry. So check that one out. Crazy. Yeah, you know it. But yeah, I think if there were a top place before we move on, I would just say it was Houston. I'm not going to go into why, but I think they have the pieces to make the moves. I think they have the treasure trove of assets to where they wouldn't have to lose the entirety of that roster. And so I think that the majority of who they wanted to be there around KD could still be there. And then KD would add a heck of an umph to a team that does a lot right, especially defensively, but doesn't always know what the heck is going on offense.
Going to the Spurs.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
that'd be crazy.
Insane.
De'Aaron,
KD,
Vicky,
and Wemby. Oh, my Lord.
Coop. What?
Right.
No.
They would just. I feel like the league would just not even allow that, you know. And luckily, KD is under contract, so he'll be getting traded. He won't be free agent signing because otherwise that could be really real. On to the NFL. Similar style of news here. We have Myles Garrett has announced he will not be renegotiating nothing. He is out the door. He will be leaving. You either are going to get something for me or I'm out for free. And it looks like with where the Browns are positioned, they just can't call his bluff. You just couldn't. They're not good enough. Deshaun Watson has another tweak in the Achilles. They just announced
he's
over with. I mean, in his recovery, he had another setback, which is just, I mean, God, the guy can't even catch a break if he wanted to. Where should he go? Where do you think he should go, realistically? And let's exclude our two teams. Let's exclude our two teams from this conversation. So no Raiders, no Niners. Let's talk.
Man, I feel like a team like the Lions would be crazy if you were to go over there and get added with Aiden Hutchinson. I think that would be wild. I think there's other teams, maybe like the Chargers, who could go out and get him. They're going to be losing Khalil Mack. So maybe he could be an option to pair up with Joey Bosa. I mean, you said not to include our teams, but I mean, him going to the 49ers would be pretty crazy with Bosa over there as well. I mean, again, with the Raiders too, there's Max Crosby. But I think those teams are very good. I think maybe if you wanted to potentially, I don't know what the Jets are doing, but they have a good defensive line with Quentin Williams down there. He could add to that for sure. Those are just a couple teams. Is there anybody you had in mind for a good spot for him to land?
I mean, I I hate to say it. I like
Don't
the way
do it.
I like the way Green Bay looks. Rashawn Gary and him, I think, would be nasty. He's a very, very good cold weather player. Very, very good. And so I think that, like, going over to Lambeau might just make him even better. I mean, it's like one of the very few settings that's probably 10 times more intimidating than Cleveland, and that's only just because Cleveland can't win.
Yeah.
But that's a team that I look at who, like, I feel like could attract him because he's played for the opposite, like a team that organizationally has just been in the dumps forever. And Green Bay is one of these, like, Celtic-esque teams. Like, they kind of remind me of the Celtics of the NFL, where it's like the super old traditional team that, if you really feel like I haven't had a taste of winning, somehow signing with them just makes you feel like you're in line to win. So I could see that. I could weirdly see the Chiefs making a swing after what happened. I could see them trying to move a lot around. I could see Kelsey taking a nothing deal, like a nothing. I could see him coming back for, like, he's with
T Swift gonna pay my salary this year.
He is with T Swift. He's not tripping. Like, I could see him coming back for a penny. And so, that those would be my two teams. And then a dark horse, which I don't even know if it's a dark horse, but just because I've mentioned two already, would definitely be Baltimore. I don't know if they'd be willing to do anything within division like that. But if Baltimore or the Steelers really got their hands on a dude like that, it's like they don't even plan to play a lot of offense. You know what I mean? They could just kill you all day.
Another team that I think it would be very, very interesting if he went to, especially for a team like the Eagles. I think if he went to the Commanders, that could be something
I've heard a lot about that.
Really good for that team. They're up and coming. They have a lot of excitement. I feel like he'd be somebody who could add that great Hall of Fame veteran presence, along with a lot of exciting guys who are ready to play, ready to learn from somebody like that. And we've seen how far they can go with Jaden Daniels. So adding another great defensive player like that could just send them over the edge.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great call and a perfect way to segue next into the Kelsey coming back. We're not going to stick around too long, but we're dealing with beautiful segues here, so we're just trying to allow what's already rocking and rolling. But Kelsey will be coming back. He has announced. He said he can't go out like that. And again, we've already said, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back for nothing, just to try to make the team as best as possible, because I think he does recognize with the contract he's been commanding and his production, it's a little hard.
Dive bombing.
A little hard to build a roster around that.
That wasn't a gradual. That was a whoo.
That was I'm not here anymore, guys. So I think he recognizes that. It'll be interesting to see how that turns out. Yeah. On to the Raiders. We have some player rumors. One massive one. One massive one. So I'm gonna let Mitch, as always, take that.
So Raiders off season right now. We obviously know about the coaching carousel that's been coming through. That's a funny pun right there. Pete Carroll, and then we got Chip Kelly coming in as well.
I like that a lot.
Yeah,
that was crazy.
Got a couple old Pac-12 guys put back together.
Uniting.
There have been talks. I know last week we talked about Sam Darnold, but it looks like Tom Brady is making a push for a potential of Matthew Stafford coming over to the Raiders. I think that would be a great addition. Definitely some great veteran presence. Somebody who, even though he is at a much older age, still comes into each game with a lot of fervor. I feel like he still has a lot of games still left in him. He's always been a slanger of the football, so I would be excited if we were to get somebody like that. I definitely think we would need to make some moves. I think that would switch us to maybe more of a running back central draft rather than finding another quarterback, or just finding other pieces within the draft to help facilitate Matthew Stafford, because he's not the kind of guy you bring into a team that needs some more improvement. It's somebody you bring in that you feel we're going to win now. If we have this guy, we have the pieces around him to make that happen. So I think there'd be some big signings that we could potentially go for in free agency. I know right now the Raiders have Trayvon Moehrig that they're looking to re-sign potentially. Robert Spillane at linebacker, who's been great over the last couple of seasons. Malcolm Kuntz, defensive end, who's really showed out for us. And then Nate Hobbs at cornerback. Those are a lot of players who are up in the air, seeing if we're going to bring them back. Those are big question marks. But there's also guys out on the free agency list right now that I think the Raiders could really go after, because they need something on all sides of the ball. Running back specifically, maybe another wide receiver. And there's guys out there. They got Aaron Jones is out there as a free agent. Najee Harris, a Bay Area native, wouldn't be bad to try and go get him, pair him up with a young rookie running back, if not somebody in the first couple rounds, like you were talking about before. Cam Scatterbro is somebody.
If
we want to go
for it, end up getting Stafford, it's like I dang near think that is the move.
Right, exactly. I mean, you hope he is that kind of caliber player that's worth a first round running back one.
I do.
I'm not doubting that at all. I would be ecstatic if that's what happened, if we were able to get him. That's definitely an option. Chris Godwin's out there. Somebody who's a very reliable wide receiver who I feel like could match up with our guys, Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers, very well. And then we could try and go into the draft, pick somebody up. I know there's some late rounders that are sleepers that could really help our team as well. On the defensive side, Nick Bolton, basically two guys from the Super Bowl. Nick Bolton and Zach Bond are going to be free agencies. Teams that win Super Bowls, the players want to get paid that next season, so they might lose some guys. Maybe Zach Bond could be somebody who played amazing for the Philadelphia Eagles last season, could get a little bit of a payday coming to the Raiders if the Philadelphia Eagles can't keep him. And then there's guys like DJ Reed out there at cornerback that I feel like could help solidify the defensive back position for us, because like I said, we got guys like Jack Jones and Nate Hobbs if we can bring them back. But just to get a few more glue guys that you can really rely on that aren't a coin flip each game, I feel like that could really help, especially if we want to try and get somebody like Matthew Stafford moving forward. So there's still a lot of options. It's great having Tom Brady being somebody that is with the Raiders now, has really been pushing hard this offseason to try and acquire as many great assets, whether it be in the front office or in the coaching staff or the players all over the board. It seems like he's making the biggest difference for the organization. So I think it's really convinced folks to reconsider and come check out the Raiders, and that could prove to be positive moving forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the more you even brought that up, it does say that the Stafford is the perfect destination for the Raiders. Man, that would be a huge shift from even Darno to me. I mean, that's even like, all right, now we're talking. Now we're like really cooking.
Yeah,
like you bring Pete Carroll in, and you get Chip Kelly, and then you give them Matt Stafford, and then he has Brock Bowers, and he has
Michael Mayer,
and I do think they still need to make a move for some sort of receiver along with Jacoby. But like if I get that, I am legitimately trading down a pick or two if I think Genty's still going to be there.
Yeah,
which I don't even know. Like that's the thing about it is like he reminds me a lot of Bijan, where people kept saying, "Oh, Bijan will be anywhere from like 5 to 20," and it's like, yeah, he went 9. And I think that this is going to be very similar, where people are going to go, I mean, he could go anywhere from 5 to 20, but I personally believe he doesn't make it past the Cowboys. Like, I think the Cowboys, if they get a shot at Genty, they're going to look at it exactly again like Zeke.
Yeah.
A rebuild of fine. Just give me 4 years of juice pack. We don't even care what the rest looks like. Put him and CD together. Call it magic.
And I didn't even mention, I feel like a veteran quarterback like Matthew Stafford could really help somebody like Trey Tucker, who was a great slot receiver for us this past season, really take that next step and be somebody who actually gets a lot of receiving options, because this past season it really wasn't happening with the quarterbacks that we had.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, who would find a lot of success with those two guys?
Yeah.
Niners, we got Trent is coming back. There's been some debate. I mean, every offseason, there's always, is the Silverback gorilla going to retire? Seems very motivated. Seems like he's ready to go. Told John Lynch, count him in. So I'm excited to hear that. That's about all we got for the Niners right now until we get a Debo trade update, which we all know is pretty much a done deal. I announced that on the last show, and I'm still standing firm. I see no way out of this other than that happening. Or, I mean, realistically, I think we cut him before we bring him back, which is insane. But, like, looking at the way the money looks, looking at what we're trying to do in these next couple years, I think there's no way to get past this offseason with him still with us. So that's about it for all you Debo fans. I'm sorry that I keep reiterating that. You know what I mean? Both of those jerseys are still dope. They still will be, in my opinion, super sauce. If you got the 19 or you got the 1, you can't really go wrong. He was so instrumental for us in a lot of those successful years. So, salute to you, Debo. If and when that trade does happen, I'll do a little special on you just because, you have been one of my favorite players over these last 5 years or so. So no worries on that. On to the MLB. We got a Mitch special update as we always do. So for you baseball lovers, don't trip. We got it all here for you.
Yeah.
Let them know.
Again, it's just the start of everything. Spring training in full effect now. We got a lot of young players showing out. I think it's going to be an exciting season. I think these next few years, you're actually going to see the MLB be a little bit more exciting because they're finally bringing in a lot of young, good talent. They're not just stashing them down in the AAA minor leagues for a long time. They want to see what these guys have. I think it's finally a time and an era where it's like, yeah, let's get excited. Let's bring some of the youth out there instead of just relying on a lot of old heads, because there are some guys who can last 14, 15 seasons that, like a Mike Trout, that we're still trying to rely on to be the guys. But after a lot of injuries for him, he's actually even moving to right field for the Angels. So it's we're seeing the change of guard. We're seeing these new guys come in, and it's exciting. Some guys have been getting hurt. Andrew Benintendi got hurt. He's going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks with a broken hand. Gunnar Henderson went out of the game in a precaution. He was looking hurt. So right now it's really just about easing into the season and make sure that you're ready for opening day. You guys make sure to pay attention to our shorts. I'm going to be out here every time with the updates on telling you guys who the new best players are, who's going to be the next up and coming guys, and who are our savvy vets that are out there. And we'll be bringing you guys more fantasy insight, where I'll be telling you about guys that you should be aiming for and maybe what rounds you should be getting them in, and how you can approach each draft, whether you're going to go pitcher strong, or you're going to go hitter strong, or you're going to go more for power. Depends on if you're going to be in a points or a category league. There's a lot to talk about, so make sure you guys stay tuned. It's really going to come a lot with the shorts, and we'll talk more about baseball here once the season starts to really get rolling. But until then, make sure you check out the shorts, because there's going to be a lot of exciting news, and there's a lot of exciting players to check out.
Absolutely. One thing real fast I wanted to see if you were willing to touch on is Ohtani worth the numero uno right now? Because there are a lot of people doing drafts. He is stuck at the top.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that?
So we've had this in the past couple years. It's pretty normal in fantasy where the person who had the best season last season seems to be the automatic person. Before it was Ronald Acuna.
Right.
Before that it was Mike Trout. So there's always been somebody who, hey, that last season you did the best, so you're going to be a top player next draft. So this one I feel like really comes down to what kind of strategy you want and what kind of league you're playing in. Is it a categories league or is it a points league? Also on different platforms it's different. Mm-hmm. On ESPN, he is treated as a starting pitcher and a DH and can do both on your team.
Wow.
Whereas a Yahoo league, he's either a hitter or a pitcher, and you have to draft him twice. So right now, he's not expected to start off pitching. He's going to probably be like a month into the season. He might start to pitch. He's not going to start right away. And even then, it's going to be probably a 6-man rotation. They got Blake Snell, Glass now. They have Yamamoto, Yoshinobu, Sasaki. So they have a lot of guys that they're going to keep rotating in, just to keep all their guys healthy as well. A lot of these guys have had injury issues, even including a Dustin May, who's probably going to start in the relief pitching position, but he's somebody else who could also be a starter, can bring it up to 100 miles an hour.
Easy.
So they have a lot of top quality. I didn't even say Blake Snell, and he's going to be the number one guy. So their rotation's packed up. So if it's something where you want him for both, that'd be the ESPN league, and I think it's very worthy of being the number one player, because he's still going to give you great stats, maybe a little bit less in the stolen bases because he'll be transitioning to pitching as well.
Right.
But also if you're able to have him, say you get like a Dylan Cease and an Aaron Nola and a Cole Reagans as your top 3 pitchers, if you have him as your 4th guy out there, I mean, that's going to be great for you. So I think having him be your DH majority of the time, and then having that luxury of just having an extra guy who could give you a 7 innings, 12 Ks is always nice. But when it comes to the Yahoo type league where he's separated from pitching and hitting, I think hitting maybe there's a Bobby Witt Jr. who can give you the average, the stolen bases, and the home run production, as well as even Aaron Judge, who takes you up to about 50 home runs, who makes a difference in every category as well. Maybe those guys in a point league are maybe somebody you want a little bit more, because I also have heard that Shohei Ohtani has had a shoulder issue, and that could be affecting his swing, making it not as powerful, and maybe he has to take certain days off. So there's some questions with him. I mean, you can never doubt after having a great season like last season that he's going to be totally tanking on you. He's still going to be a top 5 hitter in the MLB. But just to be nitpicking, there are a couple guys who you could potentially pick before him if he's just going to be a batter only for you, and not bring that pitching aspect for you. So different strategies, different kind of leagues, different kind of ways to play. At the end of the day, when you're playing fantasy, obviously you want to go for the best, but you also want to go for the people that you want to watch play. And that's what's most important out there, is just picking a team that you want to be excited to look up every single day. So don't just go for the guy you think is the top rated at that draft position at that time. Go for guys that, hey, you're hoping are going to be somebody this season, because that'll be even more exciting for you and more fulfilling, especially if they get you to a championship.
And there are no guarantees in fantasy. So at the end of the day, everybody's a hope.
Yeah, there's just so much injury risk in baseball that can take you out for an extended amount of time. Huge. So it's like making sure you're getting guys, especially if you're picking pitchers early, make sure you're getting guys who are kind of falling, that are still top of their positions, so that you could potentially make it back. Because when pitchers go out, they go out. For sure. It's a lot tougher for a pitcher to come back and help you out than it is for a hitter to go out for a week and then, bring some production. With pitchers, it's ACL, or it's a Tommy John, UCL, crazy problem. So shoulders, just everything. Yeah. So I say make sure you get your big boppers at the very beginning, and then there's a lot of good pitching that can be trickled down through the draft.
Absolutely. So again, remember, pay attention to what the provider of the fantasy is. If you're in Yahoo, you know what he said. If you're in ESPN, whole different strategy. Okay? Right. So don't forget to look at what app you're in. Lastly, before we close today, we got a little soccer update. Champions League is absolutely cooking. And we are in the round of 16. So I'm just going to go over the matchups, give you guys little baby previews of what this is going to look like and who you should be looking out for. And then obviously when these happen, I'll be covering
did you guys just have a crazy game, Barcelona?
We did. That was in Copa del Rey. So that was
Del Rey. Okay.
That was in Spain.
Was more Spanish.
But it was a 4-4 in the first leg versus Atletico. Whew. Absolutely insane. Went down 2-0 before I could even turn it on. I mean, they scored, I think it was 2 goals in 5 minutes. And then, we came back, scored 4 straight. It was outstanding just to see that kind of drive back, the young ballers. And then, Atletico just does not quit. If there's one thing you know about Madrid, they're Atletico Madrid, because there's 2 Madrids. But they're almost the opposite of Los Blancos, which is Real Madrid, where it's if you really get on them, they might pack it in. And they might be I need my get back next time.
Simeone's never playing that shit.
Simeone's
never playing.
We'll all die here before we do something like that. And I think all his players are a reflection of him in a lot of ways. So as we expected, they just didn't stop. They just never stopped, and really earned their way back into it, including the way we play, I've talked about this a lot. There's tons of space because we play such a high line. And they're the type of team that's been around it long enough to know they're going to eventually break it, and they did. And so it'll be interesting to see that next leg. 4-4 is not usual to be heading into the second leg. But everything is on the table for both teams to advance. And, of course, Real Madrid is on the other side waiting. It looks like they're going to pretty smoothly advance. I think that they're playing Sociedad, Real Sociedad.
Okay.
But to the Champions League, we have, as I said, there is 16 teams left. So I'm just going to go matchup by matchup, and I'll point out each matchup in terms of excitement and also who's in it to watch. Mm-hmm. First, you got Club Brugge versus Aston Villa. Club Brugge is a Belgian team. Always good, always wins the Belgian league or gets top 3, top 2. And it can be kind of like some of these Croatian sides where like certain years they got a little run in them. Mm-hmm. I personally wouldn't give you not a soul to go look for on their team. But if you like watching team ball, they'll probably give you some. And I'm sure there are people, put in the comments if you're a Club Brugge fan, who I should have said that you should be watching. In regards to Aston Villa, Premier League team, this is a team that ownership has changed in the not so distant past. And so that has brought in a lot of money, an influx of that cash. And it is reflected in obviously the fact that they're in Champions League and just that roster. There are some ballers on that team, and they even sold my youngster, the Colombian Johan Durant, to Cristiano Ronaldo's club, Al Nassr, for 80 mil, and they're having a great time over there. I mean, those two, I don't even know how they're like, what their deal is, but they are like romancing and both going crazy in the league over there.
Not to be mistaken with Johan Durant, that's on the Minnesota Twins.
100%.
Totally different guy.
100%. And so Aston Villa, I would tell you there's a guy, Rogers. He's really nice. That's his last name, Rogers.
What about Oli?
Oli's nice. Oli Watkins is nice as well. They got let me just pull this up right now because I don't want to short them. But they do have some real. They moved a couple players recently. They did just get Rashford in.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and they got him on loan, and he's
a loaner.
Yeah, he's gonna be nice though. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up buying him. Matty Cash is cool. Urzi Konsa,
Tielemans.
Tielemans is nice. Tielemans. But let me just point out. Okay, so Morgan Rogers is the guy. Leon Bailey. They have Marco Asensio, who's a former Real Madrid guy and also PSG guy. And this dude Amadou Onana is their big offseason signing. This guy right here from Belgium. He is basically, last year they had this guy Douglas Luiz. He is like a more defensive but very similar role in terms of distribution, just how they start with him and how also they end with him in a lot of the defensive settings that they have. So he's a very influential player for them. And then, of course, like he's mentioned, Mitch has thrown out Rashford and Oli Watkins. So those are some guys to just take a long look at if you are going to end up watching that matchup.
That's kind of like a wild mashup of guys who are like have been on other top quality teams. They're just like, oh, Aston, you're ready to give me some cash?
Right. I'm on my way. And they're in Champions League. Like Champions League will make you show up. Like you get players in soccer if you can tell them you're going to play in the Champions League next year. Next, we got PSV versus Arsenal. This game is going to be very interesting. Arsenal is a very strong squad, but also known a little bit as the choke artists. PSV is a team that is an all out and out team. They do play team ball. They are very known for it. Yeah. They have this guy Tillman actually, who's from the U.S., who's super clean.
And they got Pepe?
Yep.
They got Pepe from the U.S.
They got 2 U.S. boys who are beastly. And then Arsenal, of course, if you're watching them, I mean, there's Saka, Declan Rice. Yes. I mean, the names there's a long list. Their defense is very, very strong. You know, with the fact that they got Saliba, who's, in my opinion, top 3 in the world. And then you line him up with Gabriel, and then, there's a lot of interchangeable pieces. Ben White, a bunch of these guys that are very, very good. So fun team to watch. Also, they don't really have a defined 9. So it'll be interesting to watch Kai Havertz to see if he can help them out, truly get some goals in there. Because, like I said, there is no real striker on Arsenal. Martinelli's beautiful youngster as well. Injured a lot, but when he's balling, he's balling. Next, we have the big doozy of that first day, which is Real Madrid versus Atletico Madrid.
Madrid Classic.
This is just a matchup of grit versus glamour. One side is just about as top tier, shiny, gold-filled medallion type of team, and the other team is absolutely, I brought my lunch pail, I brought my stuff to work, and I'm ready to put in some overtime.
I might punch somebody.
I'm not even tripping off the 9 to 5. I was here from 6 to the next 6. That's Atletico Madrid. And so, I think that this will be very interesting to see. Normally, in these situations, Real Madrid just seems to have their class rise to the top in these settings, like when they end up running into each other in Champions League. But Atletico is very known to put a thorn in their side in big moments. And so this could be one of them. If it were a final, I'd be very worried for Atletico Madrid. Just because Real Madrid, like I said, they tend to truly shine with everything that they're worth in moments like that. But I think they are capable of getting caught slipping. And if there's going to be a team that's going to make them sad and depressed and call it a day, it would be Atletico. So on both teams, obviously you got Mbappe, you got Rodrigo, you got Vinicius Jr., you got Jude Bellingham. I mean, at that point, it's enough. I mean, that right there is a FIFA squad that you're happy with on the Ultimate Team. You know what I mean? You're like
Valverde.
I mean,
Camavinga.
Keep it going.
Modric.
Keep it going.
Full squaddy.
Keep it going. Yeah, and we're talking Alaba. You know what I mean? Rudiger. I mean, it's Courtois.
Courtois has been holding it down.
Baller. And then on the Atletico Madrid side, you have Griezmann, you have Correa, you have Alvarez, Julian Alvarez, who has been their most influential signing and somebody that fits Simeone to a T.
Super Grease.
He is. I mean, he's like Grease off crack almost, where he's even faster, even quicker than even Prime Grease was, and still has that playmaking touch and truly looks freed since he left Man City, where he was always a what-if kind of guy. Sometimes got the shot, always made the most of it, but it never seemed to matter in terms of consistent play time.
Yeah.
So those guys, just be on the lookout. Also, Rodrigo de Paul is one of these guys who, since he's gotten to Atletico, it is like he's the talisman. When he's playing well, that team is really, really hard to beat. Also, Marcos Llorente is another guy who's similar to Valverde, who just can play anywhere and just can put in a full shift. Next, we got Dortmund versus Lille. Dortmund is a top team in Germany. Usually are getting smacked around a little bit by Bayern. And lately have been getting smacked around a little bit by Bayern and Bayern Leverkusen, both. But they're in it. They are one of these teams that you just never know what you're going to get. They could beat you, but their defense isn't very strong. So most likely when they're taking on a good team, and Lille I wouldn't necessarily say is in that threshold comparatively, but Lille still has options. I mean, they got David, they got they got guys across the board where they can catch a slip and they can put some goals up.
Yeah.
And so Dortmund will need to score to win this. They're not going to do it defensively. And they have a very confusing roster. It changes a ton. They are very fluid. It's a guy like Guiassi, I think his name is, Guisani or something like that, is their striker who's a little bit older. But
still got Brandt, right?
They got Julian Brandt. They got Adeyemi. They got Gio Reyna. There's definitely guys over there. But they're one of those teams that
transfer a lot. They're constantly on
in and out.
We'll get you here and we'll get you out.
In and out. Schlotterbeck, I think, is one of their defenders who's really good. And I think they have Sule, I believe, who was once on Bayern. I think he is their other center back.
He's
an OG.
Ever.
He's an OG. And so that team again is exciting, but there's a new name that will probably be known after this from their team, and that's just kind of how Dortmund is. And then Lille, like I said, you want to look at Edgar Davids.
I mean they're a middling French league team.
I'm sorry, Edgar Davids, Jonathan David. My bad.
Yeah, Jonathan David, the Canadian, right?
Yeah. He's their star, really.
Yeah. I mean,
they got Ethan Mbappe, who that's Kylian's little brother, who's obviously not that level. But they got Samuel Umtiti, who used to play for Barcelona. They got Angel Gomez, who's actually, I think Angel Gomez is legit. He's a former Manchester United product who came up through that team and was super highly talented at one point. They also got Andre Gomes, who was also a Barcelona player who really, kind of didn't make it and burnt out. But everywhere else he's gone, he's been pretty successful. So like Mitch is saying, this is a team whose roster-wise is just not there, and I think is winning a little bit from the fact that PSG is just not as strong. They still are dominating the French league, but the French league in general, I think, is so up for grabs.
Strasbourg ones.
There's a lot of free dubs. So, but you don't want to sleep on Jonathan David. I mean, this guy is legit, and he's basically the reason that they're there. I mean, in my opinion, because he's fast enough, strong enough to catch us.
Yeah.
Nextly, we got on Wednesday only 2 games, but that rounds out the 16. And those 2 games we have Feyenoord versus Inter Milan. Feyenoord is a Turkish team. They always, again, if you want to talk about a team that just plays as a team, similar to like PSV, these are guys that they don't even want you to know their names. They want you to know Feyenoord. You know what I mean? And that's how they're going to rock with it. When teams get here, you got to take them seriously. The round of 16 is similar. I mean, the one thing is you do have 2 legs, so it's not just a one-off. But it is similar a little bit to March Madness, where you will see teams have a first leg where it's like, okay, this second leg you're going to have to turn up. Like, you've now put yourself in position where if you're not going to go to their house and turn it up, you're going home. And so Feyenoord is absolutely capable of pulling off a moment like that versus Inter. Inter is very strong.
Did you see that Feyenoord is going to get Robin Van Persie as a coach?
That's tight.
Moving forward.
I didn't know that. That's tight. Yeah, that's awesome. So we'll see how that impacts it. Inter, again, is very, very strong. Lautaro Martinez. I mean, they got Marcus Thuram. Across the board, these dudes are just a very good team. Barella.
Yeah.
I mean, they got guys. I don't remember the Turkish guy's name. I always kill it. The Chungalunga, that guy. It's like Ashkan's favorite name to say.
They got Dumfries.
They got Dumfries, who's amazing as well.
Alessandro Bastoni is a
youngster who's nice. Nice. This guy, Hakan Chung, because he's tight.
Man, we can't even butcher your name.
We're not gonna do you like that,
bro.
Yeah, we're not gonna do you like that. Jan Sommer's been playing well at goalie for them as well.
Swiss boy.
Yeah, Swiss boy. And then they have this dude Federico DeMarco, who's like a pretty versatile, like kind of reminds me of like a Perisic. But like the Italian version, where it's like, I mean, I don't even know if you're a left back, left wing, left mid, like you're just kind of everywhere. And then they got Henrik Mkhitaryan, who comes in. He's older, but he still can put in a good shift. Still can put in that good shift. Marko Arnautovic is nice as well. Benjamin Pavard is also very good. So they got good guys, and they're just a team that's extremely well coached. Extremely well coached. And those 2 forwards, I don't know why they sleep on them. But Lautaro Martinez and Marcus Thuram are super dangerous. Yeah. Both of them are absolutely worth more than 80 mil on the market. Both are valued at that. And there's not a lot of teams that are coming forth with 2 80 mil strikers where they're just sitting there like, we're good. Last game of the 16 is going to be another pretty crazy one. How these draws end up working out, sometimes you sit back and you just wonder who's pulling these names. Bayern Munich is also playing Bayern Leverkusen, and that is a German showdown. And these are teams that are very familiar with each other. I would say it could. I mean, maybe this is even a bigger rivalry than Dortmund, because Dortmund has been more of a newer team that has become strong, whereas Leverkusen basically was what Dortmund was before, as the constant, competition to Bayern. So I think Germans would probably say this is an even bigger matchup than if it was Dortmund. But regardless, a German on German and a Spanish on Spanish in the round of 16, kind of crazy.
The 2 top tier teams, those ones, like you couldn't match them up, like
100%.
Switch it up a little bit.
100%. And I misspoke. We do have 2 more teams. Two more games. I'm sorry. That was just the bottom of that screen right there. But who you want to look for Bayern is obviously like, you want to look for a Harry Kane, right? You want to look for Gnabry. Yeah. You want to look for Musiala. You want to look for Sané.
Kimmich.
There's always the Manuel Neuer.
Yeah.
And just overall that. And then what? Alphonso Davies.
Yeah, Alphonso
Davies.
Legit.
And then on Leverkusen, you're looking at guys like Florian Wirtz, who's an absolute baller. They got Xhaka, who plays extremely, extremely well for them. And I honestly still look at, who was it? Arsenal letting them go is kind of like interesting that they did that the way they did.
Mm-hmm.
But let me just pull up the full-on players so I'm not missing anybody. Boniface is pretty good. Victor Boniface. Patrick Schick plays very well. Jeremy Frimpong is really a name to watch. This guy is a guy Barcelona, a bunch of teams have wanted. Super electric down that right line. One of the better right-wing backs the world has to offer right now. And then there's also Jonathan Tah, who is kind of the name he's a steady guy back there. Along with actually Piero Hincapi, who I think is from, and I'm probably killing that name. Ricardo, you're going to have to get that right when we get back. But I think he's from Ecuador, and he is super, super strong as well. Really great signing for them. And those two in the back just hold it down. So, again, those are the guys to look out for in those games. They should be pretty good games. They usually are with those two teams. Even though I do still expect Bayern to probably get past that. Yeah. And then the last two games that we have, the first one is a pretty crazy matchup for me because I think we got very lucky with how this poll ended up coming out. Barcelona versus Benfica.
Benfica and Portuguese teams be.
I mean, look around. Look around.
Be pretty gritty out here.
Look around. You know what I mean? We play really well against these kind of teams that are free-flowing offensively. We play a high line. These guys are not defensively organized. We attack those teams a lot. And the team that we have currently, who's our starting number one team, is putting 5 goals on teams, like pretty consistently here. And with a team like Benfica, it will be interesting to see how they try to hang with us. I think with our old tiki-taka style, like they would do some things to us that we potentially could do to them now. And so I'm a lot less worried about that than I would have been in another scenario. I will say that. And looking across the board at what we could have played, I'm very thankful because a lot of times Barcelona somehow, some way ends up with a Bayern.
You didn't want to play Bruges, bro? You didn't want to play Bruges?
Oh, I'll take Bruges. I'm just talking about, when you got a Real, when you got an Atletico, when you got PSG, when you got Liverpool, when you got Bayern, you got Inter, you got Arsenal. It's a high likelihood you're not going to avoid them. Yeah. And so just to get out the way of all that, very thankful. And Barcelona's playing hot, and we're playing very well in the Champions League. We finished as the second best team, only behind Liverpool, coming out of the group phase. Last matchup before we call it a day. I know this has been dragging on, but again, I want to make sure we keep y'all up to date so that when this happens, I can just clean it up as it goes. PSG is taking on Liverpool. This, along with the Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid matchup, is probably the true one I would tell you if you're going to watch a couple, circle those two. Yeah. Tuesday, 12 o'clock, you watch Real Madrid versus Atletico, and on Wednesday, same time, you go ahead and turn on PSG versus Liverpool. Yeah. These are going to be showdowns. Liverpool is playing better than any team in the world right now. Mo Salah is everything. I mean, pretty much is showing, my boy, the twins, my boy is showing why they couldn't let him go, showing why he's that much different than a guy like Mane. I mean, he's just showing everything. He shows what he truly means to Liverpool this year, and he might be the best player in the Premier League. I don't know about the Champions League. Not really going to go that far. But in the Premier League, he is just destroying it.
25 goals in 28 matches.
Yikes.
With 17 assists.
And those are against good teams. Sheesh. Cooking. And also teams know it's him. Like, it's not a lot of other guys cooking out there the way he is. Yeah. And so just some guys to look out for. Obviously, there's Salah to look for in that.
Your boy.
Side. There's Szoboszlai, who's their Hungarian center attacking mid, who's been playing very strong. Gakpo, right? Who's
Luis Diaz,
my boy. And then on the PSG side, or you also have
Trent Arnold-Alexander,
Van Dijk, Andy Robertson, and then what's my boy name?
Alisson.
What's my boy name with the hair who don't ever do nothing? Who got signed the same time that Haaland got signed? The forward. No, the Uruguayan forward. Why am I blanking on this right now?
I know they got Diogo Jota, though, also.
Yes.
The Portuguese baller. Darwin Nunez.
That's who I'm talking about. Darwin Nunez. That's Darwin, Mr. Get a Bucket,
Konate,
please, Nunez.
He's a beast.
Yep. And then on PSG, again, I'm not going to butcher it, but they have Kvadashvili, I think is how they try to say it, or how I will try to say it. My boy from Georgia, who recently was on Napoli, that was a huge signing. I mean, people slept on that because it happened in January, and Napoli had made such a mess of all their players that nobody really realized that it was like, yeah, this is bound to happen, and you kind of forgot how good he was. But, like, this guy is young. He's gone over there. And, like, if you want to talk about them being able to put some firepower to replace Mbappe, they sure did. You got to look at the guy Dewey as well. He's super dope. Youngster also plays the wing. You got who? Dembélé as well as playing super solid.
Giancarlo Ramos.
Yeah.
Portuguese boy.
No, it's really the other dude, João Neves.
João Neves is
that's who's really he's starting every week. Yeah. He is like a super talisman for them. And then they just put out Kolo Muani. There is Barcola. That's who I was looking with. Yeah. Bradley. Excuse me. Barcola. Thank you so much. And those would be, and then Hakimi.
Yeah, Hakimi, of course.
So those would be the guys you want to look for on that team. And then, of course, I got to shout out my Barca boys real fast because I didn't do that. But just look for Pedri, Gavi, Lamine Yamal, excuse me. You can look for really Dani Olmo. You can look for Lewandowski. You can look for Ferran Torres, really. He's been cooking lately, too. You can look for Fermin Lopez. You can look for Pau Cubarsí. You can look for Jules Koundé. Yep. You can look for Alejandro Balde.
Plethora.
There's a lot of youngsters who are playing beautiful ball, on that team. Jeez. Pause. And with Benfica, they got some guys as well who I actually I'm less familiar with. But do you have their roster up right now? Any notables? Benfica,
they have Bruma. They have Angel Di Maria.
That's nice. There it is.
So, they have a couple of known guys, whereas like everybody else is mostly Portuguese guys or just lesser known guys who fill out the team.
Yep. And they got that guy Ziki Amdouni, who was that dude from Morocco, who was balling crazy, and he spent a lot of time in the Premier League. So interesting to see him over there. But that's the roundup for soccer. Again, some super dope games to watch. There'll be 2 legs, so don't sweat it. I got you covered on it all. And as we move forward with the MLB offseason as well, my boys got you covered. So do not sweat it. Do not fret it. Say Something's going to be right back at you with some new action coming next week. Do not forget, like, comment, and subscribe. Please click that red button. Peace, love, and happiness. We out of here.